Hello students and welcome to today's English program. In today's episode, we will be discussing revision for grade 11 students of English. Please join us again after the break and we will commence with the branches that will be included in the examination. Welcome back students. As I said before the break, we will be taking a revision for grade 11 students of English. So let us begin. The second period exam will include Units 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, as well as the literature time story, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. Let us first begin by looking at the various branches and the distribution of marks. The first one, as you can see on the screen, is vocabulary, and it will be for 60 marks. The second one is grammar, and this is for a total of 40 marks. Third, we have language function, when we are being asked what we would say in certain situations, and this will be for a total of 50 marks. Next, we move on to the set book questions, which come from both the units that are covered in the curriculum, as well as the story, which, as we've said, is The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. And this is for a total of 40 marks. Next, we move on to writing, a very essential branch in your examination, and this is for 80 marks. So you need to pay attention to writing the outline and then giving the detail in the composition. We move on to reading comprehension and summary. You are given a passage and you are asked to answer reading comprehension questions. And then a passage from the reading comprehension will be used for the summary. Lastly, we have the translation, and this is for a total of 30 marks. So these are the various branches that will be covered in your examination for the second period. All of this amounts to a total of 400 marks. Without further ado, let us begin with the very first branch, which is vocabulary. We're going to be looking at practice exercises with the vocabulary items that you have been taking over the past semester. Firstly, I would like you to choose the best answer from A, B, C, and D. And the first question reads, the spring season unfolds A/N blank of blossoming flowers all over the country. Look at the various options that we have here. A, canopy, B, agenda, C, beverage, and D, empathy. I am sure that as I was reading them, they sound very familiar to you. These are vocabulary items that you have been taking and that you should know by now. So which do you think is the appropriate answer to this question? That's correct. It's canopy, which means something that is covering a space. So the spring season unfolds a canopy of blossoming flowers all over the country. So you can imagine a lot of flowers covering the country during this season. The next question is, I think they are very blank after this long journey. We can visit them later. And the options are A, bubbly, B, wary, C, dazzling, and D, fanciful. And as you can notice, they are all from the same part of speech. They are all adjectives in this question. So once again, which do you think is the most appropriate answer? Give it some time. And that is once again correct. The answer is wary. I think they are very weary after this long journey, which means tired or exhausted after this very long journey. Next, you need a password to A, rely on, B, log on, C, pass on, and D, wind up. And these are all phrasal verbs. So they are verbs that are phrases. They are made up of at least 2 or more words. So what is the most appropriate answer to this question? It is in fact log on. You need a password to access the internet or to access a certain page on the internet. Next question is, I shouldn't have spoken so blank to you. I was angry that time. A, gradually, B, harshly, C, cordially, or D, traditionally. And here they are all adverbs. So which is the most appropriate according to the situation that is being given? I shouldn't have spoken so exactly harshly to you. I was angry that time. So I shouldn't have been speaking to you in such a way that you felt bad. I was angry at that time. I did not mean to speak that way. Next sentence is, the plane crashed in a mountainous area that was totally blank to vehicles. Was it extensive, quotidian, courteous, or inaccessible? If you're living in a mountainous area or a mountainous region, usually places become very inaccessible. They're inaccessible to cars, inaccessible to people, which means they're very hard to reach. And now let's move on to the next question. The prize winner received a book with his name blank on the first page. Is it owed, insulted, blocked, or inscribed? I want you to think back to Unit 5, which is all about writing. So which vocabulary item from that unit is the most appropriate to answer this question? Exactly, the answer is inscribed. The prize winner received a book with his name inscribed on the first page. So it was carved on the first page. Next, the doctor's report stresses the blank of eating plenty of fresh vegetables and fruits. The options are literacy, amateur, doctorate, and necessity. So what do you think? Is it important and is it necessary to have fruits and vegetables on a daily basis? You're right, it actually is. That's why the answer is necessity. The doctor's report stresses the necessity of eating plenty of fresh vegetables and fruits. That means that it is vital, it is very important that we have fresh fruits and vegetables in our diet. Next, we are going to fill in the spaces with words from the list below. And these are the words annual, festivity, pass on, commemorate, financial, and roundabout. Choose the most appropriate word to answer each of these questions. Number 1, the blank was so successful that many people approved of it. So, what is the most appropriate answer to this question? Which of these words that are given fits this sentence? The festivity was so successful that many people approved of it. The event or the commemoration was so successful that many people had very good things to say about it. Next sentence, the Kuwaiti people blank their Liberation Day yearly. Here we need a verb. We need an action verb. They are doing something. They are commemorating. The Kuwaiti people commemorate their Liberation Day yearly, which means they remember it on a yearly basis. Number 3, blank camel races are popular in the Gulf area. What kind, or what is the correct answer to this question? Annual camel races, which means camel races that happen once every year. That is what annual means. Number 4, there is hope of getting blank support for the project. When we have projects that we want to materialize, what kind of support are we looking for? Exactly, we are looking for financial support. We need the funds to realize the project, to make it a possibility. Next, could you blank the story to me after you read it? So which one should we include here? Once again, we need a verb. So which is the only verb that is left in the list? That's right, pass on. Could you pass on the story to me after you read it? So after you have finished reading the story, can I have it so that I might read it as well? Let us now move on to the same set of practice exercises, filling in the spaces with words from the list below. These are the words accountant, precious, dominant, browsing, beforehand, and enhanced. Number 1, the sentence reads, I found the needed information while blank the net. What do we do on the internet? We casually browse, exactly. I found the needed information while browsing the net. While looking through the internet, I found the information that I needed. Question number 2, my brother is an blank in a big company. So here we need a noun, obviously. We need something that this brother does, something that he is. So what is he doing in this big company? He is an accountant, exactly. He is working with numbers, he's working with finances. Question number 3, water is becoming an increasingly precious resource, which means that water has become scarce. Not many people can find it nowadays. Number 4, I'm really angry that the bank didn't warn me about this new charge. So this person is obviously angry because the bank did not notify or inform him of this charge ahead of time. And another word that means this is, of course, it is beforehand. They did not tell him in advance that this new charge was being implemented. Number 5, pictures can then be blank a computer. So the answer is enhanced. They can be improved upon on a computer, of course. Now let's move on to the second branch in the second period examination, grammar. And in grammar, you will be given questions in the format of multiple choice, as well as correcting mistakes that you find. Grammar mistakes that you find in the sentences will have to be corrected. The first question states, choose the correct answer from A, B, C, and D. Let's move on to the first sentence. I didn't like the TV program as it was blank, interesting, nor entertaining. Now the key word that you need to focus on when confronted with a question like this is nor. And this will give you the answer more or less. When you see the word nor, you know that there is another word that will come with it. And that word is, yes, it is neither. So the full sentence would read, I didn't like the TV program as it was neither interesting nor entertaining. So you can tell that the sentence is negative. So we use neither and nor in this case. Question number 2, blank, the football team, trained hard. They couldn't make it to the finals. So which of these words is appropriate for this sentence? Exactly. Although the football team trained hard, they couldn't make it to the finals. So even though they tried very hard to train, they couldn't make it to the finals. Next question. You aren't available tomorrow, blank. And of course, you remember this from Unit 6. This is covering question tags, which are short questions that come at the end of statements. So which of these options do we include in this sentence? Is it do you? Is it did you? Are you? Or will you? Now to know what kind of answer to include in this sentence, you have to look at the verb, which is aren't. And remember that the verb stays the same in the question tag. So based on that, the answer would be, are you? Exactly. You aren't available tomorrow, are you? So we include the same verb, and the question tag is usually positive if the statement is negative, which is what we can see here. Now let's move on to this sentence. We have been expecting your arrival, blank, we receive your letter. I want you to think back to the grammar lesson on for and since, and this will help you in looking at the answer to this question. So the answer is, we have been expecting your arrival exactly since we received your letter. So ever since we got your letter, we have been expecting you to come. We have been expecting your arrival. Blank, the bell rang. All the students had finished their exam. So which of these conjunctions do we include in this answer? That's correct. You have to look at had finished and rang And these are the indicators in the sentence that will tell you what the answer is. So based on what we see here, the answer is, by the time the bell rang, and rang of course is in the past simple tense, the students had finished their exam. Next sentence, prices of some foodstuffs are going blank fast nowadays. So what are happening to the prices these days? Are they going up? Are they going down? What's happening to them? So the answer, of course, is up. Prices of some foodstuffs are going up, or another way to understand this is the prices are increasing nowadays. Next sentence, blank had the teacher begun the lesson when one of the students asked to go out. So let's think of this again. Which of these conjunctions is the most appropriate for this sentence? Exactly. Hardly had the teacher begun the lesson when one of the students asked to go out. And you can tell that there is a bit of difficulty that is being faced in this situation. And of course, the indicators in this sentence are had the teacher and when. So we are dealing with issues of time to answer this question and to narrow down our choices to come up with the answer. Next sentence is, I tried many times and at last I blank to solve this difficult problem in maths. So think of the lesson on ability and being able to do something. Can you do something? So based on that, let's think of the answer that fits in this sentence. I tried many times and at last I managed to solve this difficult problem in maths. And you look at the words in this sentence that will help you to figure out the answer, tried and difficult. So you can tell that there is a bit of a struggle, and the word managed tells you about that. It says that you are facing a problem and eventually you overcame it. Next, we are going to correct the underlined mistakes in the following sentences. Please pay attention. You have sentences here that have highlighted and underlined words, and each of these words are a grammatical mistake. So your job is to find the correct answer to this problem. So the key indicators, you have to pay attention to them, of course, when you are answering the question. Let's read this sentence together. My elder brother has been studied in London since 4 years. So obviously there are mistakes which are underlined. To find the correct answer, you have to look at the words coming both before and after. So here we have has been, that is coming before studied, and 4 years coming after the word since. So the answer, of course, is has been studying. We need to include the form of the ing after has been. And here, instead of since, it's for. We're looking generally at a point in time, which is 4 years. So the correct sentence would read, my older brother has been studying in London for 4 years. The first we see there is the past, but in the continuous. And the second, we use the word for instead of since. Next, correct the underlined mistakes once again in the following sentences. And here is our second sentence. Hardly had I gone to bed, then the alarm clock went up. Obviously, these are mistakes. So, to help us in finding the answer, we have to look at the keywords. The first one is hardly, and the second, alarm. So, based on that, what do you think? Do you think that you have the answer to this question? So the first one, then, would have to be replaced with when the alarm clock. So at the point in time when the alarm clock rang, I had gone to bed. And of course the second one would have to be replaced with off. So when the alarm clock went off or began to be working or began to activate, that is when I had gone to bed. Let's move on to the next sentence with two mistakes that we have to correct. If you had added a lump of lemon, The soup would have been delicious. Now, obviously, sometimes, even when you listen to a sentence that has mistakes, you can tell that it is incorrect. So the first one that we have to correct is lump. And instead of it, we would put a slice of lemon, a small slice of lemon. Lump is usually used for sugar or salt or anything like that. And the second one would be replaced with would have been delicious. We're talking, of course, in the past. Would have been delicious. So the correct sentence would read, if you had added a slice of lemon, the soup would have been delicious. And the next sentence, neither Talal or Fahad play music. Now remember when we looked at the question that included neither nor. So based on that, of course, or would be replaced with nor, because neither nor come together. And the verb would have to be plays. We're looking at the plural here when we include the verb with neither and nor. So the correct sentence would read, neither Talal nor Fahad plays music. And the next sentence, the secretary has been written a report for 5 hours and she hasn't completed her yet. So obviously, really big mistakes here. The first one for written would have to be replaced with writing a report. She's actively writing a report. Here we are including the continuous. So she is in the process of writing it. She is not finished yet. And she has been doing so for 5 hours. And she hasn't completed it yet. We cannot say that the report is her. That is not the correct pronoun to use. The correct pronoun, of course, is it. So the correct reading of this sentence would be, the secretary has been writing a report for 5 hours and she hasn't completed it yet. Next sentence, you have take your medicine, don't you? Now you can tell that this is a question tag, but of course we have mistakes that we have to correct. The first one, take, you have take your medicine. It is in the wrong tense, and don't you, of course, is the incorrect question tag. Take would be replaced with taken your medicine. We are looking at the past simple form of the word. And don't you would have to be replaced with haven't you. Now remember that the verb stays the same in the question tag, but it becomes negative, just like we see here, haven't you. So the correct answer would be, you have taken your medicine, haven't you? Next sentence, don't driving so fast, do you? Here we have another question tag, but of course, some mistakes. So instead of driving, we would have to say, don't drive so fast. It is the auxiliary verb. It is the verb without changing the tenses. And the question tag would be, will you? Don't drive so fast, will you? So of course we have a situation in the present when someone is driving fast and another person is asking them not to do so. This brings us to the conclusion of our first part. Please join us after the break and we will be moving on to language function. Welcome back, students. As you remember, before taking the break, we talked about vocabulary and grammar and looked at a number of exercises that will help us to prepare for the examination. Now, as we move on to language function, I want you to think of the importance of using this branch in expressing ourselves on a daily basis. There are so many situations that we are put in which we need to express ourselves and use certain words and phrases to respond. So let us begin. For expressing opinions, of course, we have the formal response as well as the informal response. So depending on the situation we are put in and the people that we are speaking to, whether they are friends, family, acquaintances, maybe we are put in a professional situation, that informs our response. And with expressing opinions, we can say things like, personally, I think, or personally, I believe. And we can say, I feel, if we are discussing emotions. And in my opinion, of course. So you're giving your own take, your own opinion on something. Here's my example. In my opinion, birds should not be kept in cages. So of course, this would follow by supporting your opinion. You would give the reason why. But here, as you can see, it is being used. In my opinion, I believe that, or I think that birds should not be kept in cages. Next, we look at guessing. When we guess something, of course, once again, we have the formal response and we have the informal response. And we can say things like, I guess, I imagine, it's quite likely that. So we are not certain. That's what we can take away from this one. That guessing means that you are still not sure of your opinion, but you are giving it anyway. You are guessing. And an example would be, it's quite likely that there might be a rise in oil prices. So there is a chance that it might happen, but we are still not certain that it will indefinitely. Next, we have suggestions when you give recommendations for something. And that happens, of course, in many situations. Once again, we have the formal and the informal. And we can say things like, why not? Or you might try. Or may I suggest that? So these are all ways in which to suggest something to someone or recommend something to someone. An example would be, may I suggest that you find new sources of energy? So we are proposing new sources of energy for the future. Next, we have warnings. Sometimes we are put in very dangerous situations, so we need to give warnings. We can say things like, look out, be careful, or excuse me, be careful. Here's an example. Excuse me, be careful. It's not safe to park here. So obviously the situation is one that is very dangerous. We are warning someone of doing something because the consequences will not be very good. And now, with that information in our minds, let us practice. Let's say your friend asks you what life will be like in the year 2050, which is not far from now. So what would you say to this friend? What would be a reasonable response? Here is an example that you might consider. I guess or think it might be more advanced. So here we are guessing. We are not sure because this is into the future. We cannot tell how things will be in the year 2050. This is why we are guessing or we are imagining that life in 2050 will be more advanced. Next question. Your school principal wants to know what sports activities your school club should introduce. So obviously they are asking for your opinion. What do you think should be included? May I suggest that you think of tennis? So you are giving a suggestion, something that you recommend to the school principal that you think really can be implemented. Next one, your brother plays computer games all the time. Of course, we face this on a daily basis. We are in a world where there is a lot of technology, so we use these things on a daily basis, sometimes on an hourly basis. So what would you say to your brother? You would say something like, be careful, you need to take a rest. So you're giving him a warning that playing too much video games could hurt his health, could hurt his eyes, and he would be very idle and out of shape. Next question, your friend doesn't know how to save a phone number. So they might be asking you for help in how to do this. So a very reasonable answer would be, press the menu button and choose save. So you are giving instructions on how to do this, on how to save a phone number. Next one, your mother doesn't let you go out with your friends. What would you do in this situation? What would be the kind of response that you would give to your mother? Here's one. Please, mother, I won't be late, I promise. So you are promising, or you are giving your word that you will not be out too long, so maybe she can let you go out with your friends. Next one, your father tells you he has a surprise for you. So here you begin to feel excited about what this surprise might be. And the response would be, really? What is it? So you are asking questions in response to this situation. Next situation, Your brother thinks it's safe to drive without a license. That's very dangerous. So you need to, of course, give advice and give a response at the same time. So how would you put both of them into one very good answer? That's correct. You can say something like, I totally disagree with you. It's totally forbidden. It is forbidden for people to leave their houses and drive in their cars without having a driving license. Now let's move on to set book questions. And as I said at the beginning of the episode, set book questions come from both the units as well as the story. And your story for this second period examination is The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. The first question we're going to look at together is, in your opinion, why do countries hold festivals? Think back to the very first unit. We talked about festivals and people attending them and having a good time and the emotions that are spread during this time. So why do you think people hold festivals or countries hold festivals? We need your opinion. What would be a very good answer to this question? Here is one that you can consider. Festivals attract many tourists, therefore the economy of the country improves. Festivals are also an occasion to celebrate the country's cultural heritage. People can benefit from the huge discounts that are offered during festivals. Here you have so many reasons why people or countries hold festivals on an annual basis, on a yearly basis. There are so many things, or even good things, that come from holding them. You have a lot of tourists that come in. The economy is boosted. And as well, you are celebrating your cultural heritage. You are remembering what makes you unique. Next question is, how is Hele February a patriotic celebration? Now the key word here is patriotic. And of course it's an adjective, so we are describing the celebration as being very nationalistic, very in tune with what makes the country special. So what would be a good answer to this question? It commemorates Kuwait's National Day and Liberation Day. This is why Hele February is very patriotic. It is linked to these very important celebrations in Kuwaiti society, celebrating the National Day and the Liberation Day. Let's move on to the next question. Why is it important for family members to meet on special occasions? Why is it such an important thing to sit with family, talk, discuss, and catch up? Why is this an important thing for families to do? And here is the answer. They meet to discuss family matters. They can also share happy moments and strengthen relations. Besides, they can exchange experience and seek the elders' advice. So we come together with family to talk about so many things that happen in our lives, and we share happy moments and strengthen our relationships to one another. Because family is the unit that you always are a part of and people who you see on a regular basis. Next question, Diwaniyas serve different purposes. Explain. Now, Diwaniyas, of course, are social places where people come together. What are the different reasons why there are Diwaniyas? You need to explain your answer. So what do you think is a good answer to this question? Let's look at the suggested answer here. They are not only social gatherings, but they also play a political role, as people can meet there to discuss different issues. So it is not just there for people to socialize and talk and meet new people, but they also have a very specific cultural and political role. People come together to talk about everything that's happening in the country, politically and of course socially, even culturally. Next question, and here we have opinion, of course. In your opinion, how can people benefit from the internet? How can people really use the internet in a way that benefits them? What do you think? The answer here is, people have become in contact with each other all the time, regardless of where they live. The internet is a source of a wide range of information. It provides both entertainment and knowledge to its users. It can also be a social network, especially in today's day and age. The internet is being used for so many things. Not only do we go to it to find information, but we connect with people through social networks, and we find a wide range of information that we need to complete so many things in our daily lives. Next question is, How necessary is a mobile phone to you? How important or essential is a mobile phone to your daily life? Of course, even without thinking of what this means in terms of the set book, the mobile phone is precious to a lot of people. So you can, of course, answer this question. And a good answer to this question would be, it keeps me in contact with my family and friends. It reminds me of important dates. It makes me safe, reaching everyone whenever I need them. It keeps my photos, videos, and other important files. And as you can see, there are so many functions of a mobile phone. This is why it has become indispensable, which means that we cannot do without it. We need it on an hourly basis for all of these reasons and so much more. We need it to contact friends, to save dates, to save photos, videos, and very important things that we need. Now let's move on to literature time, and as I said a few times now, the story is The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, which is a classical American story by author Mark Twain. The first question is, why do you think Huck refuses civilization? Is he right? And you need to explain your answer. So we know that throughout the story, Huck is a character that defies civilization. He does not like to be civilized. He wants adventure, he wants to go out into the world, and he wants to meet people and do interesting and fun things. So what do you think is a good answer to this question based on what you know about Huck as a character? A good answer would be, I think he refuses civilization because he is still young and wants to be free to do the things he likes without rules and restrictions. And we can continue on to say, I don't think he is right because it's important to be civilized, to be able to live in this world. Civilization makes us accepted by others and our relations improve. An uncivilized person is usually rejected by society. So we have the reason why he refuses civilization. It's because he's still young and he wants to do things without rules or without restrictions. But we don't necessarily need to think that he is right. We can also disagree and believe that he should be civilized. He should live within the rules and boundaries that are set by society. Let's move on to the next question for the story. What will you do if someone tries to fool you? So if you are put in a situation when someone is trying to fool you or get the better of you, what would you do? Here's a good answer. I will tell him that it's not good to think he is cleverer or better than me. I will stop being friends with him. I will ignore him. I will consider him as an enemy. So these are all negative things, of course, because no one likes to be fooled. So we would either stop contacting or having relations with this person, and we would consider him an enemy, not someone we can get along with, of course. Next question, in your opinion, how should we deal with servants and slaves? Of course, a very central character to the story is Jim, and he is a runaway servant. He was at Miss Watson's house, but he ran away after she accused him of stealing. So, in that context, how do you think we should deal with slaves and servants? What is the most appropriate way? And the answer is, we should be merciful with them. We should give them the respect they deserve and offer them a comfortable living condition because they are leaving their homes and their families to come work for you. So it is only right that you make them feel comfortable and welcome in your houses. Next question, friendship is a gift, which is of course something we all know. How should you treat your friends? How do you think your friends should be treated? What is the kind of relationship you should be having with your friends? I should be honest with them. I should keep their secrets. I should be loyal to them and be there in time of need. And of course, this only helps the friendship to grow even stronger. Now that we're done with set book, let's move on to writing, a very important component. It is crucial to learning the English language. The types of writing are as follows. We have, first of all, the reports or account. Next, the email. Third, the argumentative topic, which means that you are arguing for or against a certain topic. And then we have a chart and a table that you would have to analyze and then answer a question related to that chart or table. Here are some tips that you need to keep in mind, and I suggest that you have a pen and paper handy to write them down so that you can remember them when you are taking the examination. The first one is to read the topic very carefully. Oftentimes, students do not really read the topic and answer the question without fully understanding what the question is asking for. So you need to read the topic very carefully. Next, brainstorm some ideas about the topic. So before even writing the composition, you need to brainstorm some ideas and include them in the outline. Think about some ideas that are related to the main topic and use the helping words to do that. Next, pick a thesis or a main idea. You need to have a main idea to start the body with. You start with the introduction, of course, and then move into the body, and this is where you have your main idea. Next, you will be writing an outline to follow, which we'll be showing you in a moment. Begin writing paragraphs. Remember not to begin by writing a huge paragraph. You need to space them out and indent each of the paragraphs in your composition. And you need to review your essay for mistakes. Give yourself enough time at the end to review for any grammar and spelling mistakes, because the more you have, the more marks you will lose, and of course you do not want that to happen. Writing, of course, is a medium of communication between people of different backgrounds. In 14 sentences or 160 words, we are being asked to plan and write a report about the importance of writing in keeping records of events, transmitting knowledge from a person to another, and third, expressing feelings and thoughts. So this is an example of how the question would come, the format that it would be written in the examination. You are being asked to write a report of 160 words or 14 sentences answering this question directly. First of all, the outline. We begin, of course, with the introduction. You have to give an introductory sentence that is very general in nature and, of course, begins by introducing the topic to the reader. Next, we begin with the first main idea. This is in the body of the composition. And, of course, under the main idea, we include supporting details that explain the idea even more. Next, we move on to the second main idea and follow with similar details, and then a third main idea, and of course, another set of details. Lastly, we end with a conclusive sentence. We include a sentence that concludes or wraps up everything that we have been talking about in the composition. So this is, of course, the ideal outline that you need to include before writing your piece of composition. Throughout history, people have relied on writing as a means of communication. This would be the introductory sentence that we begin with. As you can tell, it's very general in nature, and it begins by introducing the topic to the reader. Here we have the first main idea. Writing helps us keep records of events. This is the first way in which writing is used. We can learn about our history from written books, and this would be, of course, the details for the main idea. The second main idea would be knowledge is passed on from generation to another. So, of course, this is another main idea that supports the main introduction at the beginning of the outline. So everything has to go back to the introduction at the beginning of the composition. And the detail would be scientists document their findings. So this is a way in which knowledge is passed between scientists. They document everything they find so that scientists that come after them can look at their research and understand why they did that. Here we have the third one. We can express feelings in writing. So this is another way in which writing is important. We can express our feelings, express everything that we are feeling emotionally in writing. And of course, details would be poets and writers share their experiences with readers. So poets are known to be very emotional people, so they express themselves through writing and people respond to that. And here is our conclusive sentence. No matter how much we advance in technology, writing will remain part of our life, which is a very nice way to end and give a lot of importance to writing as a tool for the human race. All you need now is to develop your outline in full sentences. So now that we have the brainstorming done and we have our ideas, all we really need now is to develop our outline in full and complete and meaningful sentences. We should not forget to use linking words. Like I said, you need to use your helping words and phrases when you are mapping out and writing your composition. We have, in addition to this, besides, moreover, on the other hand, however, and finally. These are words that will come between the sentences that will link them together, which is why they are called linking words. When you finish writing, do some proofreading. Check your spelling, punctuation, etc. You really need to check over your grammar after you are finished writing the composition so that you will not lose any marks for having grammar mistakes or having spelling mistakes. For the charts, you will be given information, in this example, about global sales of game software, CDs and DVDs or videos. You need to analyze and compare the findings. So in this chart below, we see how sales have changed. Global sales, of course, in the billions. So we need to understand how to read the chart. And based on that, analyze it and use the information to answer the question that is being given to us. So the language of analyzing charts. The chart shows, reveals, compares, or demonstrates. This is the kind of language that you need to use when you are talking or referring to the chart. So if you saw something in the chart that talks about games, you would say that the chart shows that games, and you would continue the sentence. The chart compares sales of computer games with CDs and videos between the year 2000 and 2003. As we can see, we have a very good action verb used here. The chart compares a certain statistic that we found while looking at the chart. Next, we can say the data suggest, represent, appear, and provide. Data, which is of course another way of saying information. So a way in which to use this is the data provide global sales in $1 billion. So they provide, or they give, the global sales in $1 billion. In conclusion, it can clearly be seen, increased, decreased, gradually. Pay attention because these are really important words that you can include in analyzing the charts and writing down your sentences. So an example would be, it can clearly be noticed how sales of game software increased compared to CDs and DVDs. This is, of course, very formal language that we use to assess and look at tables and charts. Figures began to decline, dropped throughout, higher than, whereas approximately, slightly more than, reflecting, and has been expected. An example would be, sales of game software began to increase clearly more rapidly than CDs and DVDs, probably due to the interest of people in such products. We can expect the games will remain on the increase for the coming years. So these gaming softwares will remain on the rise in the coming years. So we are looking at these figures, we are analyzing them, we are looking at the data and coming up with conclusive statements about what the chart means or what the table means. Now that we have finished with that branch, let's move on to another really important one, reading comprehension and summary making. So as I said in the beginning, you will be given a passage, of course, to read through before beginning this branch. And here is the passage. Let's read it together. When Anna Dodson traveled to Peru 2 years ago, she went on more than just a vacation. She was visiting her native country. Anna, 13, was born in Peru, but she was adopted by an American family and grew up in the United States. While in Peru, Anna got a glimpse of what her life could have been like had she not been adopted. She visited several Peruvian orphanages, including one in the hills of Cusco, near her birthplace. The orphanage was really cold and dry, Anna told Weekly Reader. The paint was falling off, the girls were very malnourished. When Anna returned home to Colorado, the memory of the orphanage in Cusco haunted her. I really couldn't get the girls out of my mind, and I really wanted to do something, because I could have been one of those girls in that orphanage. She decided to start a group called Peruvian Hearts to Help. In 2 years, Peruvian Hearts has raised about $18,000 for the orphanage. The group also bought a chicken coop so the girls can eat fresh eggs. Anna's efforts have not gone unnoticed. She recently won a Gloria Barron Prize for Young Heroes. The award is given to kids and teens who make a difference. Anna says, any kid can do what she did. Really believe in yourself and follow your heart, she says. A very nice passage, and of course you would have to read it very well and skim to find the main ideas for when you need to answer the questions. So let's begin with the first question that we are going to look through. We have multiple choice here. A suitable title for this passage could be blank. So based on what you heard me read, what do you think would be a very suitable title that would describe this passage? We have a hero with heart, or a girl with money, an orphanage in America, or the Gloria Barron Prize. So what would fit in this sentence? Which of these options would fit in this sentence? That's correct, a hero with a heart. So this girl, Anna, she's a real hero and she has heart. So even though she went back to her country and she could have forgotten about the girls, she did everything she could to help them. So she is a hero and she has a lot of heart. Next, the author's purpose in the first paragraph is to make the reader A, wonder why Anna no longer lives in Peru, B, think about taking a vacation, C, interested in learning about Peru, or D, informed about Anna's adoptive family. So when the author was writing the first paragraph, what do you think his purpose was? Think back to the first paragraph. We were starting out, we were introducing the story to readers. So the answer is, when Anna Dodson traveled to Peru 2 years ago, she went on more than just a vacation. She was visiting her native country. So based on that sentence, we can conclude that the answer is, wonder why Anna no longer lives in Peru. So we need to understand her history so that we can fully appreciate what she did to help the girls in Peru. Now that we have looked at reading comprehension, let's move on to the summary. And remember what I said about taking a paragraph from the passage to summarize. So let's move on to summary making, and with reference to the passage, summarize paragraph 4, showing what happened when Anna returned to Colorado. So obviously, we're going to be looking at this paragraph, which talks about Anna returning to Colorado and what she did when she returned to her home state. So to summarize, we really need to look at key phrases in the passage, and we have them underlined for you here. The memory of the orphanage in Cusco haunted her. Couldn't get the girls out of my mind. She decided to start a group called Peruvian Hearts to Help. So these are some of the actions, some of the things that happened as soon as she went back to Colorado. One thing that happened was that the memory of the girls could not be removed from her mind. She kept remembering them, and based on that, she decided to help them by starting a group that she called Peruvian Hearts to Help. So we really need to learn how to skim the paragraph to find the information that we need when we summarize the paragraphs. So now, after looking at this essential information, the answer, of course, would be, when Anna returned home to Colorado, the memory of the orphanage in Cusco haunted her. She couldn't get the girls out of her mind. So she decided to start a group called Peruvian Hearts to Help. Very direct answer, and it answers the question in a way in which we understand exactly what she did when she went back to Colorado. With that, we come to the end of our revision episode for grade 11 students for English. I truly hope you benefited, and I wish you the very best of luck in the upcoming examinations.